Mecklenburg system, the CMS numbers show it's K-8 Collinswood Language Academy at 187% of capacity. 3 other schools are above 170% capacity. While there's a lack of space in our classrooms, there's also a lack of affordable places to live. Now listen closely, that doesn't mean there's a lack of places to live. There are apartments popping up all over the city. The challenge is many of our residents can't afford to live there. So we sent our Jeff Rivenbark out to take a look at the issue of affordable housing.
Patricia MAPP racks up hundreds of miles each week as a courier. She's grateful not only for a job, but also a place to live, because not long ago, she didn't have a place to call her own.
I was living in a hotel for about 6 months.
She found temporary housing at the YWCA in South Charlotte, but soon she has to leave, and finding another place to live hasn't been easy.
Especially in good areas, you know, where there are good schools and good activities for the kids.
Across Charlotte, areas that once offered affordable housing options are being torn down and replaced with pricier homes and apartments.
I have a real fear that keeps me up most nights about the affordability of our city.
Charlotte Councilmember LaWANA Mayfield chairs the city's Housing and Neighborhood Development Committee.
When you have this new growth where people have decided, hey, this is a great location, but they're not thinking about all the people that lived over here before, whether they were homeowners and or renters, that displacement is going to cause a lot of challenges because we're creating a false market as far as what is affordability today in housing.
As more high-rise apartments and condos go up, the city says it still needs 34,000 affordable housing units, and that's based on the number of households or people who spend more than 30% of their annual income on housing. According to the Charlotte Housing Authority, the population is expected to grow 83% by 2050, and the need for affordable housing is expected to increase by an additional 40,000, bringing the total need to over 70,000 units.
We are just like any growing urbanizing city, and so this challenge is not unique.
As Charlotte's Director of Housing and Neighborhood Services Department, Pamela WIDEMAN says there's a definite correlation between affordable housing and upward mobility.
When you have an adequate supply of affordable housing, you provide another opportunity or avenue for people to rise on an upward economic mobility trajectory. They can concentrate on education, they can concentrate on obtaining and maintaining a good job.
After last year's protests following the police shooting of Keith Lamont Scott, Charlotte City Council identified key areas to tackle regarding economic inequality. Affordable housing was number one. The city set a goal to create or rehabilitate 5,000 units within 3 years. The city says it's created 2,200 units over the last 12 months, or about 44% of its goal. Nearly 100 new units are here at the Landing in South Charlotte, which provides housing for seniors living on an annual income of $24,000 or less. But some say more needs to be done.
We have 30,000 luxury apartments going up in Charlotte. None of them have any affordable or even workforce housing in them. And what that means is that if there was 20% of those that were set aside for workforce housing, that would have been 6,000 units. So we have to find a way to engage the private sector more to build more workforce and affordable housing units.
Getting the private sector to do this is difficult because it's costly. Not to mention, some homeowners aren't keen on the idea of having affordable housing in their neighborhood.
It's as if we don't care. We're becoming a society that's so individualistic that we only want to be surrounded by others like us.
My personal goal, and people in this industry, our goal is to move from a NIMBY, not in my backyard, to a YIMBY, yes, in my backyard. And I think you do that through proper education of the value of affordable housing to a city over the long term.
Charlotte is just beginning to be a growing thing, to tell you the truth.
71-year-old Henry Harris survives on $800 a month. Do you ever feel like Charlotte is kind of squeezing out the poor folk not to live here?
All the time. Everywhere you look, there is growing, you know, so I might as well just be satisfied with whatever I can get and, you know, just live the best I can, you know. We're the low-income people, you know, and then, you know, we can't go where everybody else go. You know, just whatever it be, you know, just don't forget about it because, you know, there are room for low-income houses in Mecklenburg County.
73-year-old NIMIA enjoys gardening.
Right here we have a sunflower, squash, tomatoes.
She lives at the Renaissance, a new mixed-income community with more than 300 units for seniors and families.
I'm retired, and that's why I look for a good place to live.
The Renaissance offers apartments for people who depend on public housing assistance and others who are able to pay market rental rates.
So these are our 2- and 3-bedroom townhome units.
As president and CEO of Laurel Street Residential, Dionne Nelson's private sector development company built the Renaissance on what used to be a public housing site.
The former Boulevard homes had fallen into disrepair. It really was not an appropriate and quality place for people to be living.
Nelson's development company is unique because it focuses on building integrated communities where people with lesser means blend in nicely with those with greater means.
I consider us a social enterprise. We are mission driven to create mixed income housing so that all families of all income levels have an opportunity to live in high quality housing that they can afford.
But to create more partnerships with private sector developers requires funding, and lots of it.
Mixed income housing requires us to build market rate, quality housing, but make some of the units available to households at a lower income and at a rent that they can afford. That requires some form of subsidy.
In 2016, Charlotte voters approved a $15 million bond vote to fund affordable housing, but the city says it's not enough to keep pace with growing demand. That's why the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Opportunity Task Force recommends increasing Charlotte's affordable housing bonds from $15 million every 2 years to $50 million. And voters will likely get to vote on another housing bond referendum in 2018.
I don't want Charlotte to become so expensive that you have to have 3, 4, 5 people living in an apartment in order to survive, or you can't afford to purchase a home and be a homeowner, since that's always been promoted as the American dream. You should have options. We're losing quickly options of housing.
The Patricias are our neighbors. And so we need to understand that we need to support those families, and it is a collective responsibility of citizens of Charlotte to create housing that is affordable to all people. And we need to do that regardless of what neighborhood that we live in.
But until city leaders, developers, and voters commit to doing more, Charlotte's affordable housing problem will likely increase as the population grows. For Carolina Impact, I'm Jeff RIVENBARK reporting.
Now, the IBM CEO once said growth and comfort don't coexist. While Charlotte grapples with growth, the good news is that our local economy is strong. In fact, few places across the country are experiencing the explosive growth projected for our region. We want to hear what you have to say about the issue. Please join the conversation on our Facebook page at PBS Charlotte. The issue of growing pains isn't an easy one to solve. But when you have an economy growing at the pace that we have, there's no way around Charlotte's growing pains. From Romare Bearden Park, that does it for us this evening. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you back here again next time on Carolina Impact. Good night, my friends.
Production of PBS Charlotte.